Testimony finally wrapped up in the Michael Jackson wrongful death trial. Today we heard from a doctor who told the singer propofol was dangerous. Eyewitness News reporter Miriam Hernandez has been covering the trial from the first minutes. She joins us live at the courthouse with today's testimony and what happens next. Miriam.
Mark, what happens next are instructions for the jury, and these instructions are pivotal in this case. These jurors have heard testimony for 82 days. They need very specific guidance on how to weigh a lot of evidence. A key question in the Michael Jackson wrongful death case centers on foreseeability. Attorneys for Katherine Jackson say that AEG knew or should have known that the star for the This Is It tour had a history of prescription drug dependency and should have monitored Conrad Murray, the physician who it turned out was providing him nightly infusions of the anesthetic propofol.
The evidence is clear that Michael Jackson was on a decline for 60 days, as written in internal emails, that AEG did nothing in supervising Dr. Murray or taking action to stop that.
Attorneys for AEG say Jackson's longtime habit caught up with him.
Michael Jackson was a grown man who kept all of his addictions, including his biggest addiction to propofol, secret, and therefore I think one has to look to personal responsibility here.
The final doctor to testify, Alan Metzger, who treated Jackson for 27 years.
Secretive about medicine, secretive about procedures, secretive about all kinds of stuff.
The doctor says that during the History Tour in 1997, he knew about Jackson's problems with insomnia, and so did his close aides. One of the directors on that tour was Paul Gongaware, who later became an AEG executive.
Mr. Gongaware knew, and everyone knew.
Dr. Metzger's recollection on the stand was not clear about Gongaware. The AEG defense says either way, there was no sign to predict Jackson's later pursuit of propofol as a sleep aid.
If they did happen, if in 2 tours ago, 20 years before this one, he was told that Michael Jackson had problems sleeping. I don't think that says anything but that Michael Jackson had problems sleeping.
Opposing attorneys are similarly polarized on the relevance of Dr. Murray's independent contractor agreement drawn up by AEG. The Jackson attorneys say through it, AEG pressured Murray to provide the propofol.
They are right. It is about responsibility. They just don't want to accept any.
The defense says the tour promoters only facilitated what Jackson wanted.
AEG Live never hired Dr. Conrad Murray.
The jury turns for instructions on Monday morning. Then Tuesday and Wednesday are reserved for closing arguments as well as part of Thursday. It is hoped that by Thursday afternoon, the jury will begin deliberations. Reporting live from downtown Los Angeles, Miriam Hernandez, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
The wrongful death case that pits the Jackson family against concert promoter AEG Live is wrapping up. The case could land in the hands of the jury sometime next week. CBS 2's Randy Page has all of today's courtroom developments.
Brian Panish, lead attorney representing the Jackson family, and Marvin Putnam, heading up the legal team for AEG Live, are 2 veteran trial lawyers who've locked horns for the past 5 months. Both say this is the longest trial they've ever been involved in, and it's now in the final stretch.
Alan Lawrence Metzger.
Michael Jackson's longtime doctor Alan Metzger, seen here in a video deposition taken for this case, is believed to be the final witness who will be called to testify. But Putnam and Panish privately add nothing is certain until both sides officially rest. From the beginning, attorneys for the Jackson family have summed up the case with 2 words: corporate responsibility, saying AEG Live negotiated the contract with Dr. Conrad Murray to provide medical care for Michael Jackson, then pressured Murray into making medical decisions that ultimately resulted in Michael Jackson's death from an overdose of the anesthetic propofol. Attorneys representing AEG Live say it was Michael Jackson who hired Dr. Conrad Murray, that AEG merely agreed to front the $150,000 a month Conrad Murray was to be paid. We put the same question to both sides. What is the one sentence you want the jury to take with them when they go into the jury room?
Wow. Michael Jackson was a grown man who kept all of his addictions, including his biggest addiction to propofol, secret, and therefore I think one has to look to personal responsibility here.
Now that the evidence has been presented, both sides, what one sentence would you like the jury to take with them when they go into the jury room?
That AEG had the opportunity to help Michael to take action. They didn't, and they put Conrad Murray in a substantial conflict, which led to what happened.
Both attorneys will have the opportunity to speak directly to the jury in their closing arguments next week. In downtown Los Angeles, Randy Page, CBS 2 News.
Michael Jackson wrongful death trial new at 6. Jackson's former physician took the witness stand today, one day after his video deposition was shown to the court. As Eyewitness News reporter Miriam Hernandez tells us, jurors are expected to begin deliberations next week.
It was in 1996, during the history tour, that Michael Jackson's struggle with insomnia became abundantly clear to his longtime physician. He testified the entertainer was so adrenalized it was days before he could sleep. He says Jackson was in a similar creative frenzy when he wrote the song that raised millions to fight famine. Dr. Alan Metzger told jurors that under his care in earlier years, Jackson was able to sleep with traditional sleep medications, but then other doctors overprescribed for the star. Katherine Jackson alleges that Jackson's tour promoters, the AEG, negligently supervised Conrad Murray, who is now serving time for causing Jackson's death. The AEG defense says Jackson's use of meds was his personal choice. Jackson's habit with pain meds was spotlighted in a video deposition presented by the AEG defense yesterday. Metzger said he heard this from 4 sources, including Jackson's wife, Debbie Rowe, and 2 other doctors.
That Michael was doctor shopping and took pain medication that the average person wouldn't.
Today, the doctor testified that doctor shopping to him meant Jackson shopped for the best qualified doctors when he was traveling outside Los Angeles. Metzger testified that he advised Jackson 2 months before his death that the use of the anesthetic propofol was potentially life-threatening. But Metzger said he couldn't remember a previous instance when he allegedly prescribed propofol himself. Debbie Rowe testified that in 1997 that Metzger enlisted 2 doctors in Germany to administer propofol in a hotel room to the star, where they came equipped with monitoring equipment. The defense displayed a letter indicating Metzger ordered it.
Do you remember having a conversation with either or both of these gentlemen about assisting Mr. Jackson with his sleep?
Never.
Never.
The Jackson attorneys plan to have Metzger offer an explanation today, but the judge ruled that the Jackson attorneys violated court rules by improperly sharing information with a doctor. They were barred from inquiring about it. Dr. Metzger returns to the stand tomorrow. The plan for the court is still to have closing arguments begin next week. Miriam Hernandez, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.